Perched on a rocky promontory, overlooking the bustling fishing village of Nfuma in Ghana's western region, stands Fort Metal Cross. Its imposing whitewashed walls rise against the deep blue of the Atlantic Ocean, a stark and striking sentinel guarding the coastline. From this vantage point, the fort has witnessed centuries of history unfold, its stones saturated with stories of ambition, conflict, and unimaginable sorrow. The waves that crash against its foundations today echo the sounds of a distant past, a time when this structure was not a monument, but an active instrument of empire. Its very presence on this land is a powerful testament to a global history that connected continents through trade, conquest, and the forced migration of millions of people. The story of Fort Metal Cross begins in the late 17th century, a period of intense European competition along the Gold Coast. The British, seeking to establish a secure foothold for their commercial interests, commenced construction in 1683. It was a laborious undertaking taking 15 years to complete. When its walls were finally finished in 1698, it was christened Fort Dixcove. Its design was strategic, intended to project power and defend against both local resistance and rival European powers. The fort was built to be a formidable presence, a permanent symbol of British influence in a region rich with resources and fraught with political complexities. It was a declaration in stone and mortar, a claim staked on African soil. Initially, the fort's purpose was multifaceted, centered around the lucrative trade that defined the era. It was established as a commercial hub, a place to exchange European goods for the region's abundant natural wealth. Gold, the precious metal that gave this coast its name, was a primary commodity, alongside valuable timber and palm oil. The fort served as a secure warehouse, a marketplace, and a repair station for British ships navigating the treacherous waters of the Atlantic. It was a vital link in a chain of commerce that stretched from Europe to Africa, designed to funnel resources back to the coffers of the British Empire and fuel its expanding global economy. However, the fort's commercial activities were not limited to inanimate goods. It quickly became an integral part of a far more sinister trade network. Alongside the gold and timber, Fort Metal Cross became a transit point for human beings, a place where captured Africans were imprisoned before being forced onto ships bound for the Americas. This dark purpose would come to define its legacy, overshadowing its role in other forms of trade. The very structure designed to protect commercial assets was repurposed to commodify human life, turning the fort into a place of profound suffering and a gateway to the horrors of the Middle Passage, forever embedding it in the tragic history of the transatlantic slave trade. The primary function of Fort Dixcove was to facilitate and protect British trade interests. It was a nexus of exchange, where local merchants and African brokers would bring their goods to trade with the fort's European occupants. The British sought gold with particular fervor, hoping to replicate the vast fortunes that other European powers had extracted from the Americas. However, the yields were often disappointing, leading the Dutch writer Willem Bosman to derisively label it the fake mint of the Gold Coast. Despite this, the fort remained a crucial outpost for other resources, particularly timber for repairing ships and palm oil, a valuable commodity in industrializing Europe. The fort's ledger therefore tells a story of both economic ambition and frustrated expectations. Yet no entry in this ledger carries more weight than the fort's role in the transatlantic slave trade. It was not merely a peripheral player, it was a significant hub in this brutal system. Historians estimate that over 3 million enslaved Africans passed through the gates of Fort Metal Cross and other similar forts along the Ghanaian coast. Men, women, and children captured from their homes in the interior were marched to the coast and imprisoned within its dungeons. Here they were held in horrific conditions, stripped of their names, their identities, and their freedom, awaiting the arrival of slave ships that would carry them across the ocean into a life of bondage. The fort became a point of no return. The dungeons and holding cells within the fort's walls bear silent witness to this dark history. These cramped, airless spaces were designed to hold human cargo, to dehumanize and break the spirits of those imprisoned within. For weeks or even months, enslaved individuals would endure unimaginable suffering, a prelude to the even greater horrors of the Middle Passage. The fort's very architecture, its thick walls, its cannons pointed out to sea, its segregated quarters, was complicit in this system. It was a machine built for the purpose of processing human lives into property, a place where the cries of the captive were muffled by the sound of the ocean and the business of empire continued unabated on the floors above. The scale of this operation is difficult to comprehend. The passage of over 3 million souls through this single point represents a staggering loss of life, of culture, of potential. Each individual represented a family torn apart, a community shattered, and a future stolen. Fort Metal Cross was a critical node in a vast network of violence and exploitation that reshaped the demographics and economies of 3 continents. Its history is therefore not just a local story or a Ghanaian story, it is a world story. The fort stands as a chilling reminder of how systems of power can be used to justify and perpetuate immense cruelty in the pursuit of profit, a legacy that continues to resonate today. The history of Fort Metal Cross is marked by constant struggle and shifting dominion. Its strategic importance made it a target for rival powers and local forces who resisted European encroachment. As early as 1712, the fort withstood 2 separate sieges by local forces allied with Brandenburg Prussia, a rival German state competing for the region's wealth. Although the British managed to hold the fort, these attacks underscored the precariousness of their position and the continuous resistance they faced. The fort was not a passive structure, it was an active military installation, armed with as many as 25 cannons, its walls bearing the scars of battles fought to control the flow of goods and people. This era of conflict culminated in a significant change of hands in the 19th century. In 1868, as part of the Anglo-Dutch Gold Coast Treaty, the British transferred control of the fort to the Dutch. It was then renamed Fort Metalen Kruis, or Metal Cross. This period of Dutch rule was brief but significant, representing the fluid nature of colonial power dynamics. However, just 4 years later in 1872, another treaty returned the fort to British control, where it remained until Ghana's independence. These transfers highlight how the fort and its people were treated as assets to be traded between distant European capitals, with little regard for local autonomy. After Ghana achieved its hard-won independence in 1957, Fort Metal Cross entered a new chapter. The newly sovereign nation repurposed the colonial structure to serve its own needs. For a time, the fort that once imprisoned Africans and projected foreign power was used as a local police station and postal office. This transformation was deeply symbolic, representing a powerful act of reclamation. The Ghanaian government took a symbol of oppression and turned it into an instrument of public service for the very community it had once dominated. It was a tangible sign that a new era had dawned, one in which Ghanaians were masters of their own destiny. Today, Fort Metal Cross carries the immense weight of its multifaceted history. It is a place of layered memories, where the legacy of the slave trade coexists with the history of colonial warfare and the story of post-independence renewal. The fort does not hide its dark past. Rather, it presents it as an indelible part of its identity. It stands as a monument not only to the suffering that occurred within its walls, but also to the complex historical forces that shaped it. To walk through its courtyards and gaze out at the ocean is to confront the uncomfortable truths of the past, acknowledging the pain while recognizing the journey toward freedom and self-determination that followed. In 1979, Fort Metal Cross, along with other castles and forts in Ghana, was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This international recognition cemented its status as a place of outstanding universal value, a site whose history belongs not just to Ghana, but to all of humanity. It marked a pivotal shift in the fort's identity, from a relic of a painful past to a protected monument for global education and reflection. This designation ensures that the fort will be preserved for future generations, serving as a permanent and powerful reminder of the transatlantic slave trade and its enduring impact on the world. It is a commitment to never forget the atrocities that took place here. Despite its somber history, the fort today is far from a static ruin. It has become a vibrant center for learning, remembrance, and community life. It serves as a living archive, where tour guides share the harrowing stories of the past with visitors from around the world, ensuring that the experiences of the enslaved are not lost to time. School children from across Ghana visit to learn about their nation's history, confronting the difficult legacy of the slave trade in a direct and tangible way. The fort has been transformed into an open book, its walls telling a story that is essential for understanding the present and shaping a more just future. The resilience of the local people of Dixcove is a central part of the fort's modern story. For centuries they have lived in the shadow of this imposing structure, their ancestors having navigated the complex and often violent realities of its presence. Today, the community has embraced the fort as part of its heritage. It is not uncommon to see church gatherings taking place within its courtyards, filling the space with songs of hope and worship. This act of spiritual reclamation is profoundly powerful, transforming a site of immense despair into a place of fellowship and faith. It demonstrates the capacity of the human spirit to find light in even the darkest of places. Ultimately, Fort Metal Cross stands as a testament to the importance of remembering. It compels us to confront the uncomfortable truths of our shared past, the brutality of slavery, the arrogance of empire, and the commodification of human life. Yet it also tells a story of survival, resilience, and the enduring quest for freedom. It is a place where the echoes of the past meet the aspirations of the present, urging us to learn from history so that we may never repeat its gravest errors. For the people of Ghana and for the global community, Fort Metal Cross is not just a monument of sorrow, but a beacon of remembrance, a call to honor the memories of the millions who passed through its gates by building a world rooted in dignity and justice for all.